This episode of the Off-Road Podcast is sponsored by Colby Valve.
Off-Road Podcast episode 475. Andy and Mercedes go to Europe.
Tonight, Aaron is gone, Coy is gone, and Benton can't seem to not break anything. And welcome to the Off-Road Podcast, the podcast about everything off-road. We cover the news, review products, and interview people in the off-road industry. I'm your host, Ben, and tonight we are joined by Andy and Mercedes from Crankshaft Culture, and welcome to the show. So, how was that for different voices?
That was amazing.
That's pretty darn good. You kept me entertained.
You know what? I'm going to start off with you guys. You guys done anything fun off-road or anything in the last couple days, weeks?
Off-road.
Off-road.
Done a lot of on-road stuff lately. But...
I definitely have. I gave our Mitsubishi Delica van, our four-wheel drive van, a much needed wash and detail. It had been an embarrassing number of months since it has seen soap. So yeah,
it's seen a lot of dirt.
So I definitely gave it the once over. We drove our Mitsubishi Pajero four-wheel drive recently. Just kept the fluids running through it. Took it out to Hood River yesterday just to put it on a little bit of a trip. But I didn't go into and didn't do any four-wheeling in it recently. So most of the adventures we've been having have been more of a mix of pavement and dirt roads versus hardcore wheeling.
Or they've been rally inspired, but the rallying has been mainly on tarmac or some slight gravel or dirt, but not a lot of off-roading, so to speak. Not right as the moment.
Nice. So I found. Did you guys hear about my blowout on I-90 coming home from Yellowstone?
No.
I think I saw something on Facebook about it.
So my rear driver's side tire blew while I was coming home from Yellowstone. Fortunately, just outside Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And I had lost 5 bolts off my beadlock ring.
Oof.
And it had bent out and all that. So under the thought process and talking to friends, the belief is that I lost tire pressure and it heated up and exploded.
Wow.
And I think I know how those bolts broke now. I had checked torque. Well, my torque wrench is dead. I checked. It's like out of spec really bad.
Oh.
And how I came to the conclusion is looking at what would cause your beadlock rings to fail like that and bolts to break. It was over torquing, under torquing, or fatigue on the bolts. Well,
sure.
The bolts haven't been changed that many times, twice, or they've been retorqued a couple times. But I checked torque before I left, and I'm under the belief from reading online about when I was checking out new torque wrenches, after guessing that maybe it was my torque wrench being out of spec, that vibrations kill torque wrenches. Well, my torque wrench has been in my toolbox in the back of the 4Runner with my recovery gear and stuff, vibrating around. Torque wrench is not supposed to be vibrating around.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So it was not in a case or anything. It was just in the back. And so I believe that is what killed my torque wrench.
Wow.
Blew my tire. That's the conclusion I'm currently at.
How fast
were you
going?
okay? Was everybody okay, or were you?
Oh
okay?
yeah, everything was fine. Fortunately for us, we were able to. It blew out. There's nobody else on the road. I did not lose control. I was going about 80 miles an hour, 75, 80, somewhere in there is where the speed limit is. And I was going the speed limit because I just had it on cruise control.
Sure.
Oh my God.
And as soon as it went, I was able to just pull over. But I mean, the tire's gone.
Yeah.
God.
Did it make a big bang?
No big bang. Just a whoosh, and I felt the rear end, shake around, and I was able to just pull it over and fairly quickly. And there's no traffic at the time, and I turned on all my amber flashies, and I was good.
Did somebody stop to help you, or
I ended up calling a tow truck, got towed. Whole bunch of crap happened the next day trying to get a tire because it was a Sunday and nobody was really open except for Firestone.
Of
And
course.
now I have a single finger salute for Firestone.
Oh
And
no.
Walmart and Costco don't sell 33-inch tires. They don't keep them in stock to sell.
Boy.
And so I got the tow truck driver who towed me, got me a junk 33 to get my 4Runner out of the Firestone parking lot. And then the next day I took it to Ponch's Tires in Missoula, and they hooked me up with brand new KO3s.
Wow.
Oh, outstanding.
Nice.
Yes. Good price out the door. I'm very happy with them so far.
Wow.
But I need to replace my torque wrench and retorque my bolts because I actually had a bolt break already on my beadlock brakes.
Oh, jeez.
So I gotta extract a lot of bolts right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
But fortunately, it's home. I don't have to drive it regularly or anything.
Right.
The joys of multiple vehicles, as you guys know, if one breaks down, hey, you've got
Yes.
Yeah. One of the few benefits.
The 4-car solution as it is in this house.
Yeah, it's the 3-car solution here, so it works out all right.
Right, right.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, that's the
I know
biggest
tire blowouts can be pretty hairy. I know of people that have lost tires at speed, and I mean it made a bang like a shotgun going off, and
Well, you guys remember when I lost my wheel last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, and I've had a couple blow up on me. I'm used to it. Like I'm in control. Chaos follows me, and I survive the fight. I may be bloodied afterwards, but I survive the fight. So,
and that's what's important. Live to fight another day.
I don't want to say that's your middle name, but you want to make Chaos middle name, but yeah.
We say that our family has the best worst luck.
Oh gosh.
Like stuff.
The biggest thing is that you were okay.
Oh yeah.
Who's in the car that you're okay? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it was the whole
cars
family.
Can be replaced.
Exactly.
Yeah. If I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck at all.
Yeah, right.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Patch. Head over to patriotpatch.co and check out their selection of great patches, shirts, cleaning mats, signs, and stickers. You can also join the Patch of the Month Club for $15 and receive a patch, matching sticker, and artist proof each month.
Oh, you're right.
We shared the patch. I don't have the picture of the Patch of the Month for this one, but it's a pretty good one, and I'll try and have it up there for next week, guys.
Have tire troubles ever left you?
We also want to thank our sponsor.
Have tire troubles ever left you deflated? Colby Valve has got you covered. Ever have a valve stem leak? Colby Valve makes reusable and easily replaceable valve stems that don't require you to remove your tire from the wheel. They work with your off-road rig, ATV, side-by-side, commuter vehicle, or even your tractor. Never be left stranded again because of a busted valve stem. They also have a tire repair kit for those punctures that keep you away from doing your favorite thing, wheeling. Make sure to check out colbyvalve.com or ask for them at your local off-road products store.
Well, I picked out the perfect story for this week for us, guys, because you guys own a Subaru. Our story this week is all-wheel drive vehicles targeted by National Park Services for driving on 4-wheel drive trails. This is the letter here from the U.S. Department of the Interior about a vehicle that was somewhere along Canyon River Overlook Road in Canyonlands National Park. So here's the story: is all-wheel drive does not equal 4-wheel drive, as one Subaru Crosstrek driver recently discovered while touring around Canyonlands National Park. The Subaru owner posted their cautionary tale on a National Park subreddit and shared the stern warning they received from the U.S. Department of Interior for violating a rule restricting travel on certain roads within the park. The road in question was Canyonland Colorado Overlook Road, one of 6 roads within Canyonlands that are limited to high clearance 4-wheel drive vehicles. And as defined by them is four-wheel drive vehicles is defined by a sports utility vehicle, SUV, or truck with at least 15-inch rims and at least 8 inches of clearance from the lowest point of the frame, body, suspension, or differential to the ground. Four-wheel drive vehicles have a transfer case between the front and rear axles that lock the front and the rear drive shafts together when four-wheel drive is engaged. All-wheel drive vehicles do not meet this definition. While all-wheel drive vehicles are quite capable, and Subaru Crosstrek does in fact meet the minimum height requirements for the ground clearance at 8.7 inches, it does not have locking differentials and is not a true four-wheel drive vehicle. If you need to brush up on your distinctions between the two, the key difference is the two systems is the locking differentials in most four-wheel drive vehicles, which increase off-road traction. So, yeah. Well, there may be some truth in that assessment. The rule is a threat of a $5,000 fine, and that's nothing to really rub your nose at. Adding insult to injury, the NPS does not tow stock vehicles. Visitors caught in the backcountry with disabled vehicles can expect commercial towing fees at excess of $1,000. So if you're heading there, make sure you have proper backcountry permits if you need them, and check the road condition page before embarking on your adventure. And don't drive your Subaru, right, Andy?
Yeah, I'm really familiar with this. I've read the letter. Mercedes has read the letter too.
Right.
And this is one of those that I can see both sides of the story on this, because like when we've been through some of the national parks like Death Valley in our four-wheel drives, occasionally you'll get way out there, and I ran into a guy like in a Camry out there, and I'm like, she and I were like, how did this guy get out here, and how's he getting out?
And he was not in a good position, and he was asking for help, and we were like, you're not going to really make it out of here.
Well, we didn't have any help we could give him other than, you know, I mean, they were fine. I actually, long story short, ran into the guy at an event and he recognized me. But anyway, and at the same time, so I understand that you can, or by the way, you'll see rented all-wheel drives. Like when we were in Death Valley one time, it was like every fifth vehicle was a Nissan Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the same time, some of the crossovers, like the Crosstrek Wilderness or the Outback Wilderness, they have 8.7 inches of ground clearance, as you had mentioned. And some of them have the ability to simulate a low range with X mode and all these other things. With that being said, it all comes down, in my opinion, to experience. And I understand what the Department of the Interior is saying, because they don't want people with little experience and in a not as capable vehicle getting out into the backcountry. Now, I would argue if you don't know what you're doing and you have a 2-speed transfer case, it doesn't matter.
You shouldn't be out there anyways if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So drawing the distinction between, you know, vehicles with a transfer case and not, you know, I mean, there are some pretty low four-wheel drives with transfer cases. You know, if you get into a full-size pickup truck with a transfer case on and stock everything else, you know. So, but I suppose they decided to draw a line in the sand. This is the line in the sand. You definitely don't want to. I don't know if you read on that Reddit post, but apparently he was caught by like a camera or something, because they sent him some. He wasn't pulled over. He got the letter in the mail.
Yeah, I think he was parked at some point, and they might NPS might have drove by and snapped a picture of his license plate.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I remember when it went viral. I want to say a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, "Oh, this is an interesting story." I mean, it makes sense in the eyes of NPS, but as like someone who would be capable of driving up there and probably a Subaru, you know, the Wildtrak, is that what the Subaru is?
Wilderness.
Yeah, Wilderness. Yeah, I'd have no problem doing that.
Right. Well, you know, it begs the question, you know, with Subaru in particular, and some of the other auto manufacturers with these all-wheel drive vehicles, that they come out with more adventurous, more ruggedized versions of themselves that are more capable. So for instance, with the Wilderness series, you've got a retuned suspension, you've got extra lift, you've got all these other capabilities to make them more capable in off pavement situations. That graze and muddies the waters in between said 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. So when does the National Park Services and some of these other entities that say you got to have a 4-wheel drive? Okay, when do they start listening to the auto manufacturers when they're making all the drives more capable? So when does that shift happen?
How about what about a Hummer EV SUV? It's got locking front and rear differentials, but no low range.
Exactly. Right.
I mean,
yeah, I'm sure they're going to have to change it up soon and define things more. Because leaving it somewhat vague, like, oh, well, not really vague, but cut and dry,
right.
4-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, with all the vehicles that are coming out that are just all-wheel drive, because that's how the electric system works. Then because the Teslas, you can get them in an all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
I question on whether or not a Cybertruck would be able to get up that versus a
right. That's a great point.
As mean as that sounds towards the Teslas versus the Subarus, I think the Subaru is going to be a little more nimble getting up some of those trails.
So Andy and I both have a chance to be on the launch, the first drive event of the brand new Crosstrek Wilderness for Subaru. And you wrote for Gear Junkie, right?
I did.
And I wrote for OVR Magazine. If you were to look at our photos that we both submitted for separate publications, because we're freelance auto journalists, the 4-wheel drive for off-road track, I shouldn't say 4-wheel drive track, you could have basically said it was a 4-wheel drive track. Because the track that they had us on as all journalists, and mind you, Andy and I are pretty seasoned off-roaders when it comes to driving and navigating and stuff like that. The track that they had us on, everybody, was really quite extensive. And it was like, you're going to put that car up there? And we're like looking up a really steep, loose, silty, off-camber type thing. And we're like, even a couple of us, we're like,
I did. I couldn't believe it. I literally stopped and said to my drive partner, they don't really think we're going to go up this, do they?
Yeah. I'm like, and even for instance, for me, the first time I barely made it up there because there was this huge juniper tree that was right on the side there. I'm like, if anybody starts getting off to the side, your whole entire body's gone, because those junipers, those trees are literally going to just mangle the whole entire side. So hats off to Subaru for believing in their vehicles enough to say, you know what, we're going to test these vehicles against the journalists and to see and make sure that they can do it, but B, that they're capable enough to do it. And people that had not as much experience, but had other people in the vehicle with them to guide them, they could do it. It was pretty really cool to see.
We've also driven a number of the crossovers off-road at some of the media events, like for the Northwest Automotive Press Association. Things like the Jeep Compass, that it does have this sort of simulated low range, with the CVT does this thing where it gives it this, crawl ratio. Is it as good as a true low range? It's still not quite, but it did some pretty impressive things. So.
Even the Trailhawk too.
Yep. And it was a Compass Trailhawk.
Yeah, the Trailhawk.
So, but again, they got to draw the line somewhere, I suppose.
Well, maybe they need to get with the times. If the manufacturers are updating their vehicles to become more adventure ready and more adventure capable, then they need to listen and they need to change their verbiage.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe what it would take is for some of those manufacturers to take National Park Service or Department of Interior guys who set the rules and be like, hey, this is what our vehicle is capable of.
Right.
Can this be the exception? It's not that hard to add. What do they call it in laws?
Amendments?
Amendments, yeah.
The biggest thing is we all want to be safe. We all want to do the right thing. We all most of us want to adhere by whatever laws and regulations are in place. But as things change and morph, things need to move and shift along with them.
Yeah. So that's the National Park Service for us right now. And I mean, maybe it'll take some organizations reaching out to them and talking to them about new solutions for anything to happen. But
Right.
that means we've got to reach out to them.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think everybody, especially since COVID, everybody's just, dying to get out to nature, to get out there, to explore more, and we're the biggest proponents of making sure that people are safe and, do our part as journalists to write about how to and be safe when you're out there and how to properly recover vehicles and drive a certain way. And this is how you do it. But we're constantly learning too.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing is the openness to say, oh, okay, teach me. There's always something to learn. And,
Yeah.
But I go back to what I said initially, just because you plop down the money for a high-end Jeep or a Bronco or a Land Rover, whatever it might be, doesn't mean you know how to use it.
Right.
Oh, you're always limited by your skills. That's why
Right.
I've always been a big proponent. Is that the right word?
Proponent. Yep.
Or learning to drive your vehicle before you mod it.
Totally.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, go out, figure out what you need, because not one build is perfect for another person. While
Yep.
it may get you close, you may want something different. You may want a lower center of gravity. You may want larger tires, or you may just be fine on stock tires if you're not going on anything worth it. Why are you going
Right.
to sacrifice miles per gallon for smiles per gallon if you don't need to? As much as I love my big tires, lift, skid plates, and all that,
Right.
I do use them.
Sure.
But I could probably go down to a 31-inch tire, and
Right.
for 90% of the time I'm driving my 4Runner, that'd be perfect. Until I get to snow or playing in rocks and all that, then the 33s are beautiful.
Well, and I tell everybody too, I've written articles about this too, is especially if you have a newer vehicle, there's so many nannies and so many buttons like crawl mode and this and that to or hill hold or descent control, all these different things to help you off-road better. And the vehicle can take control for you and drive for you and all these different things. Turn those off and just do the driving for yourself first, so you know how the vehicle reacts. And make sure that you are the driver first. So, God forbid, if you need to drive yourself out of a situation, you know how to drive your vehicle manually. Or if a system breaks, you know how to drive that vehicle. We've got old 1990s, 1994 Delica and a 1991 Mitsubishi, Pajero sitting at home here, where everything is manual. Like there is no hill hold. I'm the hill hold.
There's no computer.
There's no computer. I'm the e-brake in the Hail Mary when it comes to pushing my stomping the or mashing the brake pedal because I'm on a steep hill and I'm like, okay, and I got a clutch where I got to make sure I'm not going to roll backwards. But just drive manually, turn those systems off until you know your vehicle and you learn your vehicle, and then start integrating them, and then you can understand the nuances in between your vehicle and you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why don't we talk about your guys' trip here to Europe, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
We shall.
All right. So you guys were the first team to compete with an EV that was from outside of the EU or surrounding area. And you guys were the only EV team this year.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start off with what were you driving?
We were driving a Volkswagen ID Buzz, which is a retro version of the old microbus or van, as they call it, transporter, depending on where you live. So, we're not out to change anybody's mind on EVs. We're not some sort of how do I say this? We're not being paid to do any of this stuff. The fact of the matter is EVs are a part of our landscape. And as automotive journalists, we're people who write about cars. And the opportunity came to, when we were looking at what are we going to do? So the event was called
I was going to say, you might want to say what kind of event it was.
So the event's called the Baltic Sea Circle Rally. It's put on by an organization called Superlative Adventure Club based out of Hamburg, Germany. And they put on a variety of rallies across Europe. So some of them, sometimes it's on pavement, sometimes it's on gravel. We did some dirt and gravel, even though this is a 2-wheel drive. We didn't do anything that was gnarly by any means. But approximately 5,000 miles, 7,500 kilometers in 16 days, and goes through 9 European countries, including Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and then back to Germany. So, and as you said, we were the first Americans in an EV to do this rally.
And that's the 2025 map. We did 2024, but this is the brand new one if you were to do next year.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's the same route pretty much.
Yeah, it's close to the same route. Well, okay.
Actually, I think it's exactly the same route.
Well, okay, you can make your own route
Yeah.
or route. It's basically here's your start, and they give you a route book. And here I'm the navigator. Andy was the driver, and they guide you along by paragraphic form, saying if you wanted to see this church, this is what this church is all about. It's medieval and et cetera, et cetera. Or if you wanted to go to this town, you could do this, and back and forth and back and forth. And you could stay here in Wild Camp and so on and so forth. You need to bring your own paper maps. They do not supply that. There's no GPS. And you basically plan everything, and they tell you where to camp. You don't know where really to camp, or you could hotel it. You can stay with friends along the way if you know them, or anything. So, for us, we're used to having a very rigid competition where you have to be exactly en route, exactly on point. So for here, all these little dots and blue and yellow check marks, for instance, that's me trying to find back roads that are not on motorways, because not only can you not use GPS, you can't use main autobahns or motorways. So I had to basically plan the whole route on outdated maps, because try to find a brand new Estonia map when you're living in Portland, Oregon, and you're like, well, dear the Google, or dear, Amazon, can I find an updated map of Poland, please, or Latvia or Lithuania? It's not as easy as you think, but we're used to having everything very rigid and very perfectly on time and on course with the rallies we do. And this was basically a choose your own adventure rally with an unknown vehicle to us, with the ID Buzz EV from Volkswagen, which was a great little camper van. We had an outfitted camper box that was kind of a sleeper / cooking unit that's right there. If you want to hold on that photo right there. It was a box that folded down, that if you see on the left-hand side, there was a little burner set up that you could, a 2-burner cooker that you could pull out and set up. The middle unit, that little gray box, was a fridge that you could pull out and use. Then those white boxes on the right-hand side was a little washing basin where you just had a spigot and you could have a little wash basin. And then we slept on top of it. We folded down the seats, and it was there you go, Kukuk. It's a German-made system, and then we slept on top of it with our sleeping bag.
Yeah, there's a mattress, big thick mattress. It was actually really, really comfortable.
Yeah, we ended up. So our double wide sleeping bag has to use a little 3-inch air mattress. So we kind of have to use that, but we slept on top of the actual mattress, and it was great.
Yeah. And, you might be wondering, like, wait, hold on a minute. Did you say you couldn't use GPS, but how did you find chargers? Yes, we did use third-party apps and apps for the charging stations to find chargers. But for directions on getting from city to city, we relied on the paper maps. Yeah. So for those that are viewing, yeah, this is me cooking out of the Kukuk. So you can see that slide on the left pulls out. There's a 2-burner stove and a little pantry underneath there.
And it was really handy. You could put a bunch of food and snacks and things like that right underneath. There's that little shelf underneath that burner, that stove unit. So we just chucked a whole bunch of stuff there. And that's how we basically learned that we can charge and cook at the same time. We
did a lot of that, where we pull up to a charger and we'd make breakfast there versus at camp, because we would have to go
really early.
There's a really cool tracking app called Find Penguins. It's what it's called. I don't know why it's called that, but Find Penguins, everybody ran it. And so you could see kind of the pace of the rally and where everybody was going. And you wanted to keep up with the pace of the rally. So we would generally have to wake up 4 or 5 in the morning
really early.
And we'd kind of pass everybody who's still sleeping, because we had to charge a number of times. And so there were 140
total teams that were part of the Baltic Sea Circle rally. And then as we charged mainly at a minimum of 3 charges a day. There were a few times we charged 4. There was once or twice that we charged only 2 times. But the biggest point with that is every single time we stopped and charged, we needed to wait anywhere from maybe half an hour to 50 minutes ish, depending. And that was once we started charging. It wasn't, there were some complications that we had. It wasn't when we started charging. The car was great. The VW was great for once it started charging. The issues that we ran into were we were out of country people trying to pay for charging. That's almost a whole nother podcast in itself. So that really slowed us down during the rally. We had 36 total charges, and that was a whole host of interestingness in itself.
Yeah. So basically, unlike the United States, where you can just pull up to a charger and swipe your credit card and start charging, in Europe, you didn't even usually have the opportunity to swipe a credit card. You had to have the app for that charger. So, for instance, there's a charging company called Ionity, and a lot of their chargers, or actually anybody else's chargers, you had to have their app. Well, when we were here in the US before we left, we couldn't download the app because we weren't in that region.
Everything said out of country or out of region or whatever.
Right.
So
Oh,
we
my
were
goodness.
everything literally, we were stonewalled. We thought we did all of this prep and all this research, and we literally thought we couldn't do the rally. And it was 1 month before we left.
Thankfully, our nephew, Paul Crony, who lives in Germany, said, "Hey, I've got an extra iPhone I can just lend you." He only used it for like an alarm clock. And so he gave us that to use.
And so with a lot of research ahead of time, so long story really short on this front, but it's really important. We broke down and we created a whole entire Excel spreadsheet that had tons of different apps, and we gridded it all out as to these are the 4 apps that should work in all 9 countries.
There's a key word there, by the way.
Should. And I'm using that in air quotes. Here's the really important part of the choose your own rally, right? Or choose your own adventure part of the rally, right? Should work. And then all of these others, probably a dozen others. And we broke it down to what countries they work, how you download them, how much they are. Do we need subscriptions to them? Do you need charging cards to buy, RFID keys to buy? Is it a, how do you do this? Long story short, we gave that to Paul, my cousin or my nephew, and said, here's all the work you need to do. I love you, and I'll buy you a bunch of dinners when I get over to see you. And so we had to basically rely on him. And so what we did, his phone, if you can follow this, you deserve a gold medal. His phone, because I'm dual citizen German American, my parents immigrated from Germany. We created a new Outlook free email address for me. So his phone, a new German-based email address because I had to have that. My sister's German address, physical address, because I needed to have an EU address to, ship things or just have that. My US credit card, hopefully that was going to work. Thankfully it did. And then what else? I think shipping and home address is still going to be
Blood
EU.
samples.
Blood sample and everything else. And in most cases that worked. But then once we got outside of Germany, we still got stuck. And we still had to download other programs and get along the way.
So basically, we ended up
Along the way.
Yeah. So here's where it gets even weirder, right? So
we need to write a book. We just need to write a book.
Our first charge outside of Germany was in Denmark, and we pull up to this charger, and it worked flawlessly with the app. Like, okay, cool. So I starting to get rid of this sort of EV anxiety or range anxiety kind of thing. So the next charge was in Helsingborg, Sweden, I believe it was. And we pulled up to a Circle K, like the convenience store. There are a bunch of them in Norway and Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And none of our apps worked. None of our charging cards worked. And so I thought, well, just for giggles, like I'm going to try my own personal phone. And wouldn't you know it, Sweden didn't care where you were. And so I was able to download the Elton app,
and
as
you
it was called.
downloaded it because there was a QR code on the machine.
So you scan the QR code and it downloads it from Google Play.
So mind you, you're sitting here and it's pouring rain. Was it one of the times where it was pouring? Yeah, it was. It was really crappy weather. So it's pouring rain. He's outside for 10 to 15 minutes going through every app, every charging card, every this and that. Time's ticking. And we're trying, so some of these times, and we're telling you kind of one of the worst examples, not the worst, Riga was the worst. But one of the challenges is like, you can spend, we did, not everybody, but you know, some of the more challenging times is you might have to spend 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to try to get it to charge. But once the vehicle connected, the VW was actually a breeze.
Yeah, it's not the car's
the
problem.
the infotainment system told you exactly how much time you had left. You could swipe a little bar that went from 100% to 80%.
Car was great.
If you wanted to charge it to 88%, boop, you're done. It would tell you a disconnect. It would just everything. It was just flawless. It was great.
The other thing
to pay for it.
The other thing to note is there has been apparently some sort of legislation passed that EV chargers, I believe by 2027, have to be able to take credit cards. So this is apparently the bane of
everybody's existence.
Yeah. So that'll be taken care of, I think. So, but that was certainly one of the biggest challenges.
When it come to find out that one of our contacts at Volkswagen in Germany, he had said he had the same troubles paying for chargers in the U.S. when he was based in Germany too.
Yeah.
So it might just be, if you're out of country coming in, but I keep thinking of all these people, like we were talking to other people and we're helping people that were out of country or out of state or whatever, that they're coming in and they have no idea that they even got rented in EV. And we happen to be charging an EV and they're sitting there being like, is this okay? And they've got like a house plug and we're just like, oh my God, but it just goes to the lack of information or the privatized networks everywhere. And everybody just needs to talk to each other. So we're happy that, like Andy said, in 2027, not only the new units, but they're going to retrofit the old units too. So that at some point in 2027, apparently all of Europe has to have direct capability for credit card. Of all of the 36 units that we had, only two had direct capability for credit card. And I think both of them, were in Poland. At least one of them was in Poland.
Yeah, I think there may have been one in like Lithuania, but anyway.
It's insane to think of that. And did you guys try like downloading a VPN to get around the regional thing?
So it's funny. Everybody kept asking us that, and we didn't.
We tried everything else.
Hindsight being 2020, I probably should have tried that. But you're about the 50th person to ask me.
Right.
I would also like to note, by the way, it is not lost on us that we are crankshaft culture, and we were in a vehicle that did not have a crankshaft.
So it's like kilowatt culture. So
we got that a lot too.
Oh, there's another domain to get, right?
Yeah. God, like we don't have enough.
So you went to 9 different countries.
Yes.
What was your favorite one?
Oh,
probably Norway for me. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. The scenery, like we camped outside of Oslo by about half hour, and then we started going towards the western coast and through some amazing fjords and up through the Lofoten Islands. And it was just like every time you went around a corner, you would kind of you thought, oh, well, I'm sure it won't be as scenic. And then you go around the corner, you're like, oh my God, how is it possible that like the next corner is more scenic than everywhere else? It was unbelievable. The people were friendly. Everybody spoke fantastic English, which was helpful for us considering we had pretty much English and German between the two of us. The food was good. It was just a really, really neat country. And I would love to go back.
We spent a long time in that. I think we spent 4.5 days, or almost 5 days.
7 days.
7 was it?
Mm-hmm.
It was a really long time in Norway.
Yeah. But it's like the size of the entire western U.S. coastline. It's
nice.
From Washington all the way down to California.
Right.
It's huge.
Well, and the speeds were insanely slow,
Very
and the
slow.
roads were very, very narrow. I mean, that was everywhere. But Norway, especially, that you think that this is 2-lane, or that's actually pretty wide. That's very wide. That's on the way to Nordkapp, or on the way from Nordkapp. That's a very wide 2-lane road compared to a lot of them that we were on.
But now think about this. You can see how wide the van is. Now picture that with traffic, including semi-trucks. And that was on
That's
a ferry going
Yeah, that's on a
somewhere
ferry.
in Norway. But
We had I think 5 ferries?
yeah. So this photo right here,
That's Norway.
For those that aren't watching, this is a photo of the van overlooking. I'm gonna butcher it. It's looks like Geiranger or Geiranger, and it's this amazing road and fjord, and the vertical drop is, I believe, 3,000 feet from the top all the way to the ocean, to the fjord. But it was just like, you come around the corner, there's this amazing fjord road, and then you get down to the bottom, and you're like, this amazing road out of the fjord road. I mean, it just kept going. Like, it was incredible. And Mercedes alluded to Nordkapp. Nordkapp is the farthest place you can drive north in Europe. So,
and I think, Ben, I sent you a photo via Messenger, Facebook Messenger, of us at the Globe. If you do have a chance to bring that up, it was severe fog, severe wind that just about blew us off. And there's a tale to tell about it, that we barely got up there with enough charge. But we did get up there, and it was a huge bucket list for us. It is for a lot of people that, not that one. It was another one. There's a big globe that we're standing in front of.
Very foggy. But the whole thing about Nordkapp that was intriguing to us was it is, there it is.
That's it.
So that's the famous monument at Nordkapp. And it was about 50 mile an hour continuous winds and fog, and it was about 36 degrees outside.
But you have to say what Nordkapp essentially is the northernmost place in all of Europe that you can drive to, you can get to.
It's actually 119 miles farther north than Tuktoyaktuk is in Northwest Territories in Canada.
So when we competed in 2020 with our Mitsubishi Pajero 4x4, our little diesel, and I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. Just let me talk about the type of vehicle. For the Alcan 5000 rally that we did, we got to the Arctic Ocean. We got to Tuktoyaktuk. And then a few years later, it was right around that time, somebody had posted about the Superlative Adventure Club and talked about the Baltic Sea Rally in our little Alcan group. And then we started researching it, and we're like, oh my God, it goes to Nordkapp. And then we looked, we're like, holy crap, it goes further than Tuktoyaktuk. We're like, well, we got to do this. We just have to do this. We got to do it someday. And so it was a huge priority for us to someday we got to do it. But it couldn't happen. It couldn't happen. Schedules just couldn't make it happen. I really wanted to do the winter one first. But
because she's a glutton for punishment.
I am a glutton for punishment. But so we decided to do the summer one first, and here we are. We decided to rally again, and we rallied further north, this continent, than we could in North America. So to me, it's a pretty cool accomplishment. It's not one that probably anybody else would ever think of, but it's cool for me.
Now you've got to hit like the southernmost.
Right? Ooh, I know.
I like that idea. I hadn't thought about that. I like that idea.
There's a bucket list that formed, more bucket lists that formed after this trip. So we did 2 more Arctic Circle crossings with the Baltic Sea Circle Rally. We crossed over Norway and Finland. And with that being said, that was us at the finish line, after the finish line. Those of you that are seeing the video on the show. So we finished Norway and Finland. That means that we did the US in Alaska in 2020, and then also 2022 and 2024. And then we also did Canada as well. Then we did Norway and Finland. I didn't realize there were only 8 countries by land that you can cross the Arctic Circle. So for me, I want to do all 8 before I die. And
that's a good bucket list right there.
I think that's
a really good. We have to get into Russia at some point.
We have to get into Russia.
We have to wait till things settle down.
I was going to say, you can't do Russia right now, but Russia's one of them. And Sweden, we could have knocked off Sweden if we had a little bit more juice, not watts in the car, but a little bit more we just didn't have enough energy. I didn't know at the time. And we missed that by about 2 or 3 hours. We could have knocked off Sweden. But so Iceland has got a very remote, tiny island that has a moving Arctic Circle crossing that will disappear soon that we need to hit. Greenland, Sweden, and Russia. Why the hell is that in there?
So I took from Andy's pictures. He posted
Oh,
some
I'm like, why is that in there?
weirdly named things. This is Hot Blood iced tea. And
Oh, okay.
This next one is my favorite as a fan of
I was like, why is
hard
that
rock and
relationship
metal.
into Russia?
Yeah.
Oh, I was
corn.
like, okay. I'm like,
Corn,
that could
which
deal with
is
like Iceland and Russia, but
corn with a K. It is a distilled spirit in Germany. It doesn't have a picture of corn on it. It appears to have a picture of wheat on it, which I found ironic. I had to take a photo and share it. So
Yeah, the next time one of you guys go to Germany, bring me back some corn. Will you?
we will.
okay, that'd be good.
Yeah.
That's funny. So that is at the finish line. A lot of the other rally cars, but
Yeah,
There's some really cool, unique vehicles there. I'm
very
So-
diverse, huge amount of diversity in terms of cars. Everything from little European micro hatchbacks to 4x4s.
And one thing that we haven't really talked about, I don't think, is that there are different classifications with SAC rallies or Superlative Adventure Club rallies. They need to be at least 10 years or older for the vehicles or net zero carbon vehicles like EV. We were the only EV.
that's interesting. So
Yes.
so
That's why they're all older.
2014 and older.
Yep.
10 years or
an
older. Yep.
EV.
Yes.
Correct.
Or like what they call, I think, a slow rider, which is 70 horsepower or under.
So you get more points depending on how crazy your vehicle is. So
No, how old your vehicle is.
so in other words, if it's
How
10, if
old or
it's
slow.
if it's 10 years old to 19 years old, you don't get any extra points. If you go with something that is at least 20 years old, you get a point for every year that it is.
20 plus whatever
and then
extra age.
you hit a threshold. And I don't remember. It's at 30 years old.
I
It's
think 30 plus.
yeah. So
Yeah, these
then
are the
you get
winners.
you get the old timer.
Those are the overall
class, and you get
winners.
more points for being an old timer. Now she had alluded to if you are running under 70 horsepower, you're in what they call the slow rider class. You get more points for that.
Like
here.
my favorite Beetle in the world, the 66.
Yeah, there's a 66
Mm.
Beetle that was fantastic. These are the top. Those were the top three cars, by the way. There was a from left to right. You had an Audi 80. You
A
had
Lada.
a Lada from Russia, and then you had an older
Benz.
Mercedes coupe. Actually, it was a convertible. I
Those are
believe,
the overall winners.
yeah. So they did all the challenges. You got points based upon how many tasks you completed. So unlike the Alcan 5000,
Oh,
or
we
some
didn't
of
even
the-
talk about that.
or like some of the other rallies we do, this is not a time, speed, distance rally. It's it's kind of what they sometimes call gimmick rallies or whatnot, but you have to complete these objectives each day. So, and if you did the objectives, you got those points. You sent them into, they had a WhatsApp group for getting points. And so, people who did all those challenges got the most points. And we ended up, 40th, was it?
I think we're, well, okay. So out of 140 teams, I didn't realize. So we, of course, as journalists, we're statistical beings. We need to write down, what odometer readings we arrived at, how much percentage of charge, how much time it took us to charge, what do we charge to, blah, 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 blah. I mean, so we're like writing down oodles of information per each charge, per whatever. So, I mean, we've got exterior motives because we're journalists. And so this is the ID Buzz that you see right now in front of your screen, old versus new. So our biggest primary goal, not only competing, but as being journalists. So we had that goal, that job right there. So, but this is a fun, you have to mow, locals' lawn for points. You have to give them a pound of potatoes and then, cut them up and have a meal with them and, send a photo in for extra points. And then you have to,
you had to buy these
the
stinky Swedish fish, Strummen,
yeah.
or however you can't pronounce
have it open in your car for the whole entire day and take a photo of the odometer reading at the beginning and the end of the day and make sure that nobody puked and that all the fish is still there and that you get points for that.
We had to sing karaoke,
with
Finland.
the Finns, which we did, and we didn't leave until 4:30 in the morning the next morning. So, things like that. So, I mean, there's a huge amount of challenges and fun missions and crazy off the wall nutso-ness and everything that we tried to do some of what we could. But that being said, is when we finished, there were only 60 people on the total tally list of points. We came in 47th. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, okay, we came in 47th of 60 people. What the hell happened to the rest of the 140 total teams? And so when I asked the organizer, I was like, what happened here? There's a very disparaging, wide difference here. And so I said, there's 140 total teams. I said, there's 60 people that finished with points. We finished with 47th because I knew that we'd be, further down because we're an EV and we're journalists. So we had a ton of statistical stuff and blah, 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 whatever, and photographs and da-da-da. And so he said, I think it was about 10 teams had to drop out because of mechanical issues, because they were having all sorts of people were like, oh, my engine isn't starting, or I had brake failure, I had, this, that, or battery issues. I mean, mind you, most of everything is in German with the WhatsApp group. So I could understand almost everything, but then I translate the whole entire time too. So not only were we competing, I had to translate everything for Andy too. So as we're moving forward, I said, so that leaves 130 teams, but only 60 are on the sheet. And I said, so is it customary for about half the people to not even hand in the route book and, have this half an inch thick full of a route book for points? He says, yeah, that's about right. But half the people just come along for the ride and just have a fun time and do the challenges or do whatever and just, or go home early or something.
Kind of like a Gambler 500, like they're out there just to have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
we didn't know that.
A lot of this rally is really a choose your own adventure. They basically give you the route book which has suggestions in it, but they say, they basically say, we'll see you 16 days back in Hamburg, and
go have fun.
It's incredible. So you get to do things how you want to. You get to go the way you want to. There are 2 parties along the way. So there was one party on the Lofoten Islands in Norway and one party in Estonia, outside of Tallinn, Estonia. And those nights you camp together. Everybody camps together those nights.
It's kind of a way to reset the whole rally together, which was really cool because, most of the times we knew or we figured that we would be alone because we were an EV. And so we had to base our travels around cities or places that we knew that would have multiple options for charging. So most of the times we didn't see other rally partners or rally teams, but when we did, everybody was super friendly and hospitable, even though language might be a barrier. It was super fun.
Yeah, I laughed when you guys were talking about in Norway how many of them spoke English. My son, it's one of the countries he wants to go to, picked up Duolingo. It's an app.
Yeah.
To start learning another thing, and he's learning Norwegian. I'm going to have to break it to him tonight that he should focus on something else. And I told him about going to Chile one of these days and hey, learn some Spanish so I can bring you along and you're useful. Because I can't, not with my dyslexia. It's too much for a second language. So
Sure.
I think the biggest thing is when we tried to at least say please and thank you or hello in every native language, but for us doing the rally, aside from Norway, because we were in it for multiple days, we had 1 3-country day. We were in Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland all in one day. There was no way for me to even really realize what the heck country I was in for me to realize, okay, if I run into a gas station quickly to go to the bathroom, how I could say hi. So most times I just kind of smiled and pointed or smiled and try to find the little icon so that I can go to the bathroom quickly and go and leave and not, whatever. But we muddled through, we made it happen.
Nice. So I'm curious. I've kept this picture up. It says Die Farmers. Is that German? And it's actually Die Farmers or something?
Die Farmers, yeah. Die Farmers. Yep. Is der, die, das, and Die Farmers. Yep.
So Die Farmers means the farmers.
The farmers. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I'm as an English speaking guy, I see that. I'm like, oh, are they really against the farmers?
No.
Battling the government? Are these some government officials?
No. That's funny.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But I mean, there were. How do I say this?
Oh my
God. Mostly in. Well, actually, in a lot of the countries, a lot of the languages of the countries we went through, German is one of them. They'll take multiple words and make one big word out of that. And remember I was in a bathroom in Estonia, and there was clearly it was something to do with the plumbing. And there was this 50-letter long thing. And I had to take a photo of it just because it was so long. And it meant something like access to the sewer pipe. But it's one word, and it's just massive. Or there was another one in Poland. Poland was some of the languages you can kind of figure out what it says, it's close enough. But some of those, especially Polish, was I have no idea. I don't even know what letter that is. I don't know how to say it. And there was this one service station that had this word. It looked like my ninja wizard, but that's not at all what it said, but it just meant car wash exit. So
I think the biggest thing for us is it was, I've always wanted to do an international rally. And, when Andy was like, hey, check this out. We looked at the SAC rally and the Baltic Sea Circle rally, and they do different kind of rallies, right? This Baltic Sea Circle rally is only one of multiple rallies that they do. So they do different European rallies, which we want to do more. But this is the mother of all rallies. This is the longest one. This is, they do a winter and summer iteration. But I felt like I was like an outside being of myself, teleporting and dropping into I'm in Lithuania for half a day. And then I'm just boop, and boop, I'm in Latvia for just a little bit. And then boop, and boom, in Poland. And then I didn't have a chance I did have a chance. It's really hard to describe. It's really hard to describe because it was such an interesting, amazing experience, challenging, sleep deprivating, just all of it encompassing. But everybody was so kind and friendly. And if you couldn't talk to each other, there's always Google Translate nowadays. You can always just hold up your phone and just go,
which we use.
But it was incredible, and I invite everybody to do it.
I think the way I akined it to kind of talk what she was to sort of identify what she was saying.
I'm trying to
identify with what she was saying.
I can't verbalize it because it's hard to.
It's like if you go to a restaurant that has, let's say, we went to 9 countries. So it's like going to a restaurant with 9 little bitty courses, like a tasting menu at a really nice restaurant that has 9 bites of the food. And
way different kinds of food.
And all the food is slightly different. Some of it is amazing. Some of it's good. And at the end, you're like, you tried a little bit of everything. And some of it was truly amazing. You didn't get to eat an entire plate of that food, but you got to sample a little bit of it. And I mean, we camped in every country we went to except for Denmark and Lithuania because we just drove through those countries.
We could drive through.
But otherwise, we literally slept. Okay, we actually did get an Airbnb in Latvia, but otherwise, we spent nights. We spent the night in the van in the wilderness. Sometimes we stealth camp downtown in a town called Buda.
Let's not talk about that part.
Norway. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, you got a little hint of all these places, and some of the places. I mean, I'd go back to every single one of those places, but like Norway, I really want to go back to, and Finland, especially Helsinki, was awesome.
And one of the things we haven't touched on yet that was really, really important about the rally, it was certainly for me, is SAC rallies, or Superlative Adventure Group rallies, Adventure Club, rallies are charity rallies. So you can either support their rally, their charity, which is Movember, which is really important.
Men's Health,
which is Men's Health and everything. Or choose your rally of your own. Thank you for putting that up. Or support your own. And so we talked about it, and we decided that we wanted to raise money for the Jesse Combs Foundation, which is really important to us.
Yeah. And on top of that, you only had to raise what they wanted you to raise, €500,
500 euros, which is about $540 or
at the
so.
time. Yeah. And so 500 is what they wanted you to raise. And we raised 3,500,
No,
3,400.
$3,239 was the total of what we raised. We blew past our goal with less than 8 hours, like within less than 8 hours.
So we were like, let's keep going. Let's see how much we can
let's
raise
keep
for this
going.
charity.
And I mean, we know so many people within our circle, the off-road circle. I mean, you know so many people that knew her, and Jessie Combs is such an amazing person that still lights up so many people, and her spirit is so fierce and so continuing. And we want to do, not just me, we want to do whatever we can to keep her spirit alive and keep it moving forward in whatever we can do. And so we blew past that beyond.
Yeah.
And tell Ben and the audience the story of when
Oh yeah.
when we checked
when
in.
you check in to start this rally, they have a party where they've got some food and drinks, and then you check in, and then they ask you who your charity was and how much you raised. And so I said the Jessie Combs Foundation, and he said how much, and I said $3,000, and he went, holy bleep. And it was like, and I
he
had
pretty much dropped his pen.
Yeah,
oh.
Yeah. So it was but it was a good feeling, and it's a good charity. So we're happy to be able to partner with them.
Yeah, thank you. And so the photos that you see, so the Jessie Combs Foundation, you can see that circular emblem. Those that are watching via video right now, that is one of the decal that we came up with them. And so basically what they're doing is they are accepting donations, and they are supporting women moving forward in the automotive trades and surrounding fields. And they are giving them scholarship monies for them to be able to do trade schools and associated education. And so they have, I don't know what, they just announced their latest round of recipients like a week or two ago now. I don't even know, a few $100,000 now that they've amassed. Yeah. So a huge amount of money now.
It's super great. It's
since 2019.
Such a good organization. Does a lot of good for the trades, does a lot of good for women and girls and men too.
And the fact that, my parents came from Germany over here, but my father was a welder, fabricator, and blacksmith, and moved here. And that's what he did. So I don't want to say I'm a shop rat, but I was a kid that grew up with it. And I was in the shop listening to him, watching him weld. And I was around all of that. And that was so important to me. And I want to support it. And, Jessie was so important in both of our lives. So great thing.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to actually meet her once.
Oh, awesome.
Unfortunately, it was only for about 5 minutes it was the Gambler 500 that we both
Oh, yeah.
And I got to meet her, and I talked to her, and then never got another chance.
Yeah. But you remembered it.
But you remembered it.
Oh, yeah, I remember it. She gave me a hug. It was fun.
Yeah. That was who she was. So
she had when I met her, she had this, her personality was that of someone that, you meet them, they're like, oh yeah. And they, she pays attention to the conversation she's having with you.
Yes.
As busy as she was, she stopped and she talked to me for 5 minutes while we were all doing the Gambler 500, and she had to go off and do another thing. But she spent 5 minutes with me to talk to me because we were talking about the podcast, and I was talking about having her on, and it was a fun time getting to meet, just to meet her for that 5 minutes. It's like, oh wow, and like because I remember her from being on Extreme Off-Road with Ian.
Extreme 4x4, yeah.
Extreme 4x4 with Ian. Yeah. And I was like,
any of the other shows.
And then watching her All Girls
Garage, yeah.
All Girls Garage and I seen her through the years, and it's just like, oh, this is so cool, you're going out and doing this and inspiring.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's a shame that she's no longer with us. August 27th of this year has been just beyond now, has been 5 years since she physically left us. But whatever we all can do as people with your audience, our audience, whoever, anybody, it's so important for us to talk about Jessi Combs, and especially to educate the new generation and beyond, and the next generation about her. That's how I feel anyways. Because she just is so important.
Until we can elevate someone to the same standard, I think would be the only time she'd probably be forgotten. And if not, and I doubt she'd even be forgotten, there would just be another role model.
I hope she's never forgotten.
Yeah.
It would never be with me.
It was really interesting. SEMA, they had the booth there for the foundation.
Yeah.
And I stopped by there and I talked to a couple people, and it was really cool, the conversations we had talking about the foundation and everything they've done, even what she had done for them. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely agree.
I've worked with them on multiple different things. So I support JCF wholeheartedly, and I've worked with them and continue to do so.
So what was your favorite vehicle? Mercedes, you said the Volkswagen, right?
Oh, you mean as far as the older vehicles at the rally?
You saw at the rally? It was a 66 Beetle.
There's a 66. Yeah, there's a 66 Beetle that was pretty rad. God, there were so many.
Volkswagen Beetle, the most underrated off-roader out there.
Can you really call it underrated when it runs the Baja?
No, I need to bring up. So hang on, I'll bring up his Instagram. He's Baltic Bug 66. Hold on, I'll bring up. Hold on. So it's Baltic Bug 66. I think it's underscore in between each one of his name. Yeah, Baltic _bug _66. That was a pretty rad rig. There's so many awesome vehicles though. Like I don't know if I can pick my favorite.
The Bug was awesome. There's
so many great ones.
There were so many of them that were cool for totally different reasons. Like there was a team there from Germany that they were in a Wrangler YJ with the 2.5 liter, and I was like, hats off to them for doing that. That's a long way in a YJ. We camped with a German team that had a 1982 Mercedes fire truck, a Feuerwehr.
The fire truck,
and
is that this one down in the right hand side?
Yes, yeah.
It's the one next to it with the gray doors. There is a photo that I sent to you, but there it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, I gotta find the photo. Yes, I found the photo.
Team 45. They were super cool, and
they were fun.
Had some. The vehicle was really cool too.
Yeah,
lots of storage space.
Yeah, they had plenty of room for beer and whatnot. So but there was also like. Here was sold as the Isuzu Trooper. It was sold as the Opel Monterey, I believe, and it was painted with Monty Burns
vehicles.
from
yes.
Mitsubishi Pajero.
I can't even tell
you.
They were
nice
people. So many cool rigs.
Yeah,
we
Land
sat
Rover
there.
Defenders.
We sat there and we went back and forth when we actually arrived there. Yeah, the cool kids from with the Audi TT from Berlin that let us stay there the night before we actually finished. Thank you so much, Team 55. They were so awesome.
I see. Is that a ZJ?
Right?
I'm sorry, what was that, Ben?
Is that ZJ towards the middle of the group in the top?
Yes, there were 3 women in a Grand Cherokee, and we left the starting line, and
I know them
about
too.
2 hours maybe north of where we started, we had to go to a ferry to cross into Denmark, and they pulled up next to us, and we got chatting with them, and I said, "Oh, how long have you had your Grand Cherokee?" And she kind of laughed. She says, "We just bought it for the rally." I said, have you had good luck with it? And she's like, "So far, no problems." And I'm like, "Okay." And I guess they made it without any issues too.
You can't see this very well. It's
not the best.
They are the BCR Baltic Sea Circle Rockets. And they were all women shoved into an awesome Cherokee, and they were so fantastic. They were great. They were wonderful.
Yeah.
Always smiling.
Yeah. So there were only a couple of Jeeps, a few Land Rovers. There was, I think, 1 or 2 Land Cruisers.
Well, that we saw. My God, there were so many up. There were 140 teams.
We got to the finish line, Jimmy. Yep, we got to the finish line. There's the Oval Monterey. We got to the finish line, and we were like,
"Wait a second, that's from
that's a BMW I set
I was
up."
going to say that's after the rally. That we have a friend of ours that that's not the rally, but we have a friend of ours
after the rally.
Yeah, that's after the rally. That's not part of the rally, but I need to drive one before I die. And we have a friend of ours that owns one, so yes, that will happen.
Nice.
That's not part of the rally.
But yeah,
no, I saw the picture and I was like, I'm snagging this one to share.
No, thank you.
we got to the finish line though, and I'm dead serious. Like, we were like, we've never seen. Where did this car come from? Like, we didn't even see this. But I mean, when you have 140 cars, and actually, at the starting line, they were starting 2 separate rallies. So you had 140 cars for the Baltic Sea Circle rally, and they were also doing the Viking Sun rally, which is sort of an abbreviated version of the Baltic Sea rally. And so there were another like 150 cars doing that. So there were actually around 300 plus cars.
I want to say 320, but don't quote me.
At the starting line. So there were tons of cool vehicles, all kinds of, and I had to laugh because there was like a Chevy van, like just like a 90 Chevy van.
Talk about the Suburban that had the freaking flames on the side that broke down
you can see the Suburban.
Yeah, the Suburban's right there.
Yeah,
it broke down multiple times.
Yeah. And there was a rolling mechanic, and he was in a little Peugeot 206, and
with Kata.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I need to find them too.
And he was the rolling mechanic. He was in the German army, and he had this little hatchback with a rooftop tent on it, but he had a full tool crib in the back of that thing. It pulled out on a slider. It was so cool. And this guy, he was awesome, and he did a great job fixing up cars. He and I were sharing a couple of beers one night, and he told me the story about working on that on the Suburban, had some brake issues.
So this is not the best. Let's see. This is them crossing or going over the start line. This is not the best photo of them.
Oops.
Hold on.
There we go.
You can't quite see it, but I'm gonna share what they are. Yeah. So it's Peugeot _106 _rally team. And so
Kevin and Kata.
Yeah, Kevin and Kata. And Kata, I became fast friends with both of them, but Kata was a fellow photographer on the media side. And so she and I became fast friends. And then we were like, let's try to link up and let's try to switch cars and photograph each other. And so before you know it, we decided we linked up right before Nordcap. Who comes up with this stuff? Oh my God. We linked up right before Nordcap when it was like before the insane winds and the fog decided to hit us. And we're hanging out of the windows, shooting each other's. Yeah, that literally perfect timing. Perfect timing. Though that's the photo that I got from Kata's car, from Kevin and Kata's car, from the Peugeot. That's what I took.
And Kata's riding with me, and she's hanging out at the van half the time when Mercedes is not hanging out at the Peugeot.
And the back end, so the other back end photo that you have that I know you've cycled through, not that one. It was the other one that was similar. And they've got, we sent you like probably 50 photos. But anyways, it was just fantastic. But not that one either. But
but that is the back end.
That's another good. Yeah, that's another good photo. It's another highway shot of us rolling on the highway.
There we go.
That one. Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah, so that was of us switching seats of rally cars, and so they were a support vehicle. But we're used to switching vehicles and being support and hanging out of cars and shooting while we're driving and this and that. And so she said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I thought, yes, because we needed to get photography of vehicles while we're driving or, being, and she's like, "Hey, why don't we do this? We can get your vehicle." And I'm like, yes, because our biggest worry was we are competing. We can't shoot our own vehicle. So it was fantastic. Thank you, guys.
It's kind of hard to get out and have someone else or drive by and take a picture, then back up and take another picture, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing when you're both competing and being a journalist team. And it's 99% of the time you can never get actually rolling shots. So huge thanks to the Peugeot team, to both of them, because when we had that micro moment of time where they said, okay, let's switch spots, and we switched spots, and we were like, all right, let's, it's a clamshell game, right? And we did it, and it was just wonderful. And they were brilliant.
So I'm guessing that you guys use your connections over at Volkswagen to get the ID Buzz.
So so I competed with Volkswagen of America in 2021 with the ID Buzz. Or, I'm sorry, not ID Buzz, ID4 with the all-wheel drive ID4 with the Rebel Rally. And so I talked with them, knowing with me competing with them and with Rebel Rally, and I said, hey, this is what we wanted to do. And then Andy, if you wanted to continue talking.
Yeah, so we reached out to them and said, hey, this vehicle would be really great on the Baltic Sea Rally. We'd be able to sleep in it. We'd be able to write about it, especially considering the U.S. is getting the ID Buzz here towards the end of the year, as we're told. So and they said yes. The ID Buzz that we had was an early 2024, so it had the smaller, less powerful engine. Motor and battery pack setup, right? So the U.S. is going to get I believe 286 horsepower single motor, or 336 or 332 horsepower all-wheel drive version. And we actually drove to Hanover, Germany, which is where they're made, and we had lunch with one of our contacts there, and he has an ID Buzz also, and it's on all terrains, and he takes it on dirt roads and mild off-road trails and goes camping and exploring, and it's pretty awesome.
And he just crossed over 100,000 kilometers.
Right, that's 62,000 miles in freedom units.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's pretty incredible. He's taken it on some pretty wicked off pavement trails, like mountainside, cliffside stuff.
What's the range like on those? I know that's always a big question here in the States, is how much range do I get out of it?
Well, I mean, the U.S. is going to be completely different than what we had as far as the European market one that we had. So
that being said,
right,
we were getting about, if I remember correctly, about 285 miles, not kilometers, but miles on a charge, and it just kind of depended on the conditions of the battery pack and the weather and all that. I mean, sometimes it was less than that. Sometimes it was a little bit more than that, but it was certainly sufficient enough to do the rally. Admittedly, I was not a huge proponent of taking an EV on this trip at first. I really wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to worry about it. It was another thing we have to worry about, in addition to the different currencies and the languages and all the, being just on those roads. Right. So we kind of we did this on hard mode, but so it was definitely enough to do the rally. And I've written about this, and I've said this out to other people. There's no reason to do this rally in an EV unless you're trying to prove a point, or you're an automotive journalist, which we are. And so,
but you can do it though. You can travel.
It's not that it's not doable.
If you wanted to travel internationally, you can do it.
You just
need to plan it, and you can do it.
I don't regret doing it at all. I think it showed me that the car. First of all, the car was able to do it. The ID Buzz is going to be a really good EV when it comes out. I'm not saying that because, by the way, Volkswagen did not pay us anything to do this.
Right. Yeah, we paid for the whole rally ourselves.
This was not a sponsorship deal. Right. They let us borrow the car. We returned it. They took the decals off, and I don't know what they do with it now. But
we paid for the decals.
Yeah, we even bought the decals. And so
we paid for the decals.
This was not a sponsorship thing, anything like that. It was a press loan. And the vehicle is not perfect, but it did a lot of really good things, and it was super practical, super comfortable, and it should do well here. I think
I think so.
Will tell. So.
I think honestly, a 250-mile range isn't terrible.
No, it's not terrible.
That's what my 4Runner gets in a tank of gas, and so it's like, oh, I could do the same. So if I were to go to Montana, I could probably stop at the same spots, because I actually know they have charging locations in those. And if I were to get those two charges, I mean, obviously I'm spending 45 minutes, but honestly, that's what my family probably spends going in and using the restroom
Exactly.
and buying candy and all the
Yeah,
other
right.
things
No,
they do when we
true.
stop. And it's like, it's never just a 5-minute gas and go.
Right.
Except for, well, it is. There's one spot where it is, but then we're stopping either before or afterwards for them to use the restroom and all
Right.
the other stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And honestly, like we have the disadvantage of having to figure out how to charge this, considering we weren't in our own country. I think the European charging infrastructure is better than the United States in terms of abundancy.
How many?
There's
Yeah,
more of them.
right.
It's
Yep.
just that non-standardization of being able to pay. But I will say one thing that was really nice is we were able to use Tesla superchargers in all but 4 countries. And so
Well, you tell them what, because that's really important to know.
tell them what do you mean?
Well, Scandinavia, but so Germany and
yeah.
Scandinavia, but once you did
Once you got into the Baltic states, so
Estonia, Latvia, yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland did not allow
not.
non-Teslas to charge at Tesla superchargers. So I don't know why there
Which
must
is
be
another
some
weird thing.
agreement or something like that. The Baltic states didn't have as high, no, not high performance, but as good of a charging infrastructure as like Norway was ridiculous. 95% of all new car sales in Norway are electric. So, and it's subsidized. So,
But the biggest thing for us is we learned as we went, and we
did.
We took amazingly so, but we took a snippet in time, right? We just took a slice in time when we're like, okay, we know that EV culture is changing. We know that EV, everything is changing. We know that all of this is transitioning at a rapid pace. We know what it is here in the US, North America. We don't necessarily know how it is in the Baltic Sea countries on the east side or European, Scandinavia or in Germany. How is it? So it was a crash course beyond everything for us to go 9 countries, 16 days and go. So, it was a wild adventure beyond epic proportions to figure out how all of it worked. And we did it. And we could write a book about the whole entire adventure. And for us, we can see so many wonderful things about it. We could see challenges about it. We could see how things could be streamlined about it. That's the most important thing about it.
And we're not out here to change anybody's mind, like, you shouldn't be driving a gas vehicle. You should only be driving
no.
EV. We're not like that. I have 2 gas-powered vehicles. We have 2 gas-powered vehicles and 2
Right.
diesels here.
Right.
But, whether you like it or you don't like it, EVs are a thing. And being journalists, we write about it. And what better way to experience EV than to do 16 days in, 5,000, almost 5,000, 7,500 kilometers in it. And it gave us we had done EV stuff before, especially with like Hummer. I'd done off-roading in both Texas and in Moab. Mercedes has off-roaded in a variety of places in EVs. And it's interesting because they do a lot of really good things off-road and on-road.
Right.
We'll just have to see how it all plays out.
I think somebody now, for myself, I think I've logged, just with those 2 competitions with Rebel Rally and the Volkswagen ID4 and the Baltic Sea Circle Rally and the ID Buzz, with me being a navigator, not driver, but with me being part of that.
And the Hummer H2.
Yeah, the Hummer, well, the EV, yeah, the
was
Hummer.
over 500 miles.
Right, that was over, well, yeah, if you want to count that. So, okay, so we're at 5,000 at least. So 5,000 plus 5,000 plus 15.
Miles.
No, not that much. So 5,000.
A lot of miles. Thousands of thousands.
Hold on. So 5,000, 1,500, so 2,000, so 7,000. So at least 7,000 miles of EV driving, at least with our time chasing the Eclipse and the ID4 off-roading with the Rebel Rally and the Baltic Sea Circle Rally alone. So
It's a good chunk of change in EVs just to kind of
yeah,
give a glimpse of what, if it's worth it or for,
well,
hey,
and
this actually worked for me. This did not
Right.
work. It does give value to any argument. It's like Andy and I have talked about hybrids before.
Mhm.
And it's like, and I've now actually had the opportunity to drive a Camry close to the same age as my wife's, and she's got the hybrid, and then I drove a straight gasser off the line. That hybrid's freaking amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And you know, like the Hummer EV SUV, scary fast. I mean, and I mean that. It's like 0 to 60 is like 3.5 seconds on 35-inch all-terrains. Like that's it. It does some like scary stuff.
Like, I mean,
but you know, I mean, I think there probably is a future for. Well, I know there's a future for it, and you know, whether that's a off-roader or a van or even just a commuter car. You know, I mean, it's a part of our landscape at this point. It's only growing, but we'll see. You know, only time will really tell what happens with the whole EV thing.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing for us is, you know, we've found ourselves to challenge EVs in a way where, you know, with the ID Buzz and the Baltic Sea Turtle Rally or the Rebelle Rally and the ID4, in a way that is non-conventional and a lot more difficult than just somebody saying, I'm going to take this across the country, or I'm going to take this across the town, you know, or 5 hours away. So we're putting the pressure on.
And, you know, like I've written about too a bunch of times. So you want to have an adventure? Try doing a cross-country trip in an EV. That's an adventure.
Yeah, I can. There's a few spots where I'd be really questioning on whether or not you'd make it.
Oh, we were.
When you get in the middle of nowhere, Poland, or you know, Lithuania, or you know, Estonia. Basically, all of the east side. Yes.
Yeah, I can see the farmer pull up in his tractor.
They almost did. So, you know.
You need generator.
Yeah, seriously.
No, I mean, honestly, the ID Buzz did great. It was just, it was not finding the chargers. It was paying for them. It was the privatized system that was the challenge.
But the farther, you know, like in a lot of the Eastern European countries or the Baltic nations, instead of having 150 to 300 kilowatt chargers, like there's the Welcome to Poland sign on this minuscule back road that we were on.
We entered Poland on gravel, by the way.
That's from Lithuania into Poland. And we were just on this gravel road. And we're just like, I think we just entered Poland. Like, what?
On gravel.
The smallest border ever. But yeah, and anyway, it's, I don't even know where I was going with this. So.
Well, it sounds like you guys had fun. You finished.
We did.
It sounds like you want to do something similar once again.
Oh yeah, I'd totally do it again. I'd love to try one of the other rallies just to see what those are like too. They have a variety of them. They have one that's only, for instance, in the UK called Knights of the Island, I believe, and it goes all the way around the UK. And
there's Knights of the Isle.
Knights of the Isle, maybe. There's European Mountain Summit that goes over like 14 mountain peaks. They
had an all-German one, but I think they did away with that one.
Yeah, I think they
did away with a couple of them.
Yeah, they changed them up from time
I wanted to do, but we'll see.
Well, where can our listeners find you guys and your future and past adventures?
Yeah, you can find us at crankshaftculture.com, as well as all associated media, social media, Facebook, Instagram, we have TikTok, we have the YouTubes, and then of course on Twitter, X, whatever you call it these days, we're at Crankshaft Cult and at Rider with Grit, which is Mercedes.
Oh yes, sorry.
She missed the cue.
I know you're cueing me. Sorry. He's
right,
so much an autopilot. Sorry.
It's all good. Well, next week, Aaron and Coy are returning from Moab, and they'll have a nice trip report for us. And a big thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight and listens to us weekly, even if, fortunately, last week we did not have a show. Those who tune in live to watch us on YouTube, we really appreciate you guys, especially when you're in the comments. And please share us with your friends. Help us grow. Wow, I said grow. And God bless America.
Don't forget to visit Patriot Patch and join the Patch of the Month Club. Check out our Gaia affiliate link for up to 40% off. Also, don't forget to head over to Warren Colby Valve and 4 Patriots to see all of their great products. We are a proud part of the Firearms Radio Network. Got a question or comment? Send it to us through our Linktree account or by searching for Off-Road Podcast. Also, you can listen to us live at overlandradio.com Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. When off-road, please remember to have fun, tread lightly, and be safe and courteous. Thanks for listening.
And if you're interested in joining the Off-Road Podcast team, reach out to us at offroadpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll talk to you next time.